Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are all doing well, and today, my friends, we're back with an Empire vs. Skaven showdown. It's going to be Boris Todbringer facing off against the Grey Seer of the dreaded 13th spell. Certainly very powerful, been making a bit of a comeback here in the metagame. Now, as far as my build goes, it is going to be triple cannon, so there's two ways that the Empire really does play against Skaven. Number one is playing like this. I think they're both equally good. It really just depends on your preference and playstyle, but I really do like this playstyle as well. So here we basically have triple Great Cannon with a Deathcaster. What this does is, at range, you can actually overcast Spirit Leech on the Jezzails, snipe them with cannons. This build works pretty good on big maps, but if it's on a medium-sized or smaller map, the Skaven can usually get you pretty good, because the Jezzails, for example, would be starting much closer. Like right here, they could close the distance to your cannons, and you're going to have a pretty bad time. But in this case, on a bigger map, this is the Cliff of Beasts, we are going to be able to draw some range here on the Jezzails, and the whole theory is basically if they have artillery, your triple cannons plus Spirit Leech outtrade them. If they go with Jezzails, you can usually overcast Spirit Leech, get in there with maybe TODDY as well as the Empire Captain and use your triple cannons to focus them down. Now, the front line here for myself is going to be basic spears, I think. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, it's going to be spearmen with shields. I think they're one of the better infantry choices that the Empire does have, especially against Skaven. Their stats are good enough to fight against Skaven slaves and clan rats, and they can also hold pretty well against like Hellpit Abominations, Rat Ogres with their anti-large, and they have really good melee defense for their price point up at 43. Couple Empire Knights on the flanks, I believe. We have 1, 2, and 3. So 1 on each side of the formations. And we do also have triple Great Cannon, like I said, and triple Pistolier. Pistoliers are good for backline harass, Rat Ogres, Hellpits, many lightly armored targets on the Skaven roster that I think are quite juicy. Now, anytime you're not going with a Lifecaster, you're usually going to want to go either TODDY or Volkmar. And in this build, honestly, either one would work. But in this case, I wanted a little bit of stopping power via TODDY, whereas Volkmar does struggle to deal with big threats like a Grey Seer. For example, like Hellpit Abomination, he's not going to do much damage against them, whereas TODDY will. So we have TODDY plus an Empire Captain for some dual gooning potential. The Walmart Paladin is here. And that's it for my army. And now for the Great Hadries, the King of Skaven. He's got a front line of clan rats here, and that has been the change in meta for Skaven. Less so front lines for Skaven slaves, simply because they got a cost increase. They're not nearly as cost effective as they once were. Because when you have 7 or 8 Skaven slaves, the cost increase does add up quite a bit. So clan rats have been making a bit of a comeback, and honestly, they do okay against state troopers. It's a bit of a wet noodle contest. Warplock Jezzails in the back, backed up by mortars, as well as a Hellpit Abomination and a Grey Seer Plague to use the dreaded 13th spell on either my cavalry. But what I've actually seen Hadri's been doing lately is very cool. Is he's been using the dreaded 13th spell on top of like great cannons, artillery pieces to pretty much one-shot them. So I love it, man. Ogres on the flanks and a couple wolf rats. What's not to love, man? So Jezzail's opening up first, going after my poor Empire Knights here. So a couple Empire Knights do pay the ultimate price for Sigmar. Looks like down to 43 models here. And the rest of the Skaven army is going to be advancing pretty aggressively here. Obviously, I have the cannons. And I made a slight mistake. I should have advanced my army up sooner, created a buffer zone, because by not engaging him here, I am letting his Jezzails get close. Whereas if I force the fighting here, the Jezzails have less room to work with. So I would say that was a little bit of a mistake in the beginning, because those Jezzails will be getting in range of my cannons shortly. However, we do take out one Jezzail outright. That Jezzail unit is popped by the triple cannons, also from the Spirit Leeches on my Amethyst Wizard. And now I'll be switching on to the second Jezzail unit here in just a moment. So some spears on the flanks, going to be taking a beating from Wolf Rats. Wolf Rats actually have really good DPS. 29 melee attack, 26 weapon strength, relatively high model count here. I'm able to chew down my spearmen, but I do have some brave Knights of Sigmar moving in, and look at that beautiful spell in the backfield. So Hadri's did use the dreaded 13th spell, I think, but it summons, doesn't it summon Stormvermin and Halberds? Or maybe if you overcast it, it summons the Sword and Shield. That's kind of interesting. I always thought it was just Stormvermin and Halberd summons, but it looks like basic Stormvermin were summoned there. But anyways, it nukes down my cannon completely, so I had no idea what was happening. I looked at my tooltip, I'm like, what the hell? Where did my cannon go? It killed everything. So the dreaded 13th spell, I'm pretty sure it actually, shattered like instantly. On top of that, mortar fire is now hitting my back line, so balance of power immediately in the favor of Hadri's here, as he does get my cannon. Looks like he's hitting my other great cannon. Things are getting a little bit messy, but thankfully we do hold here. And in the backfield, several good things are happening. The Pistoliers, with the support of the Empire Captain, are going to be overwhelming the Doggos here. And Todbringer is also shutting down the Jezzail, so the third Jezzail unit will be going down here. The big thing against Skaven is killing their ranged assets, because if you can kill the Skaven ranged assets and hounds, usually with Empire Pistoliers and Empire Knights and also a big flying lord like TODDY, you're going to be able to get some value by, cycle charging and really just taking advantage of your mobility, because Skaven without the Wolf Rats really can't do much on open field. So here, Great Cannon getting taken out by the Stormvermin summon, which haven't really been able to fend off. And I didn't realize for quite some time that was a Stormvermin summon. I thought it was Clan Rats from like something or other. But yeah, they're really holding and causing a lot of problems in my backfield. So Hadri's still ahead on the bounce power pretty considerably. Wolf Rats with Poison broken here. These Jezzails pretty close to shattering, but not quite. I figured I had to go back here and try and shut down these Warplock Jezzails. Unfortunately, though, there is a Hell Pit Abomination guarding them, so anything that gets close could potentially be terror routed here. We'll have to see. In the meantime, Toddy going at it with the Assassin here, but the Assassin is quite slippery, moving away, and Toddbringer not able to get his attacks. I do have Crush the Weak as well as the Midland Runefang, but the other activatable abilities I didn't bring, so still trying to hunt down that Assassin. In the meantime, Empire Captain going to be jumping in after the Mortar teams. They've only used about 30-40% of their ammunition, so they haven't gotten brutal kind of game-ending value on me quite yet. So I figured it would be an important thing to try and take those bad boys down. But balance power, yeah, not quite back in the middle. We're trying our best to scrap here. The Grey Seer is moving in. I do have some Brave Spearmen holding back the tide of the Skaven, the Clan Rats, as well as the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers. And the Empire Great Cannon that I do still have fighting here is now shooting here at the Grey Seer. So just trying to butter up the Grey Seer for Toddy. Perhaps in the mid to late game, Toddbringer can come back in, maybe shut down that Grey Seer, and we can live long and prosper once again. Kind of sacrificing some Pistoliers here, maybe a little bit of a lapse of micro on my part, but I do leave him here to actually fight the Warplock Jezzails and try and shut him down. And in the backfield, Toddy was going after the Assassin, but I left him a little bit too long, and the Hell Pit Abomination actually did tag him. Now, I gave Toddy a move order to get back up and run away, but sometimes, like, if something attacks you in the middle of a move order, you have to reissue it. So that was a huge mistake on my part, and, you know, may potentially cost me the game. So balance power is getting pretty close to point of no return here. But again, Toddy heals. He's much more independent. If this was Karl Franz, I probably would lose the game, like outright right here. But with Toddy maybe getting away, there still is a glimmer of hope. But yeah, really, I don't know, the whole, I'm sure you guys have experienced that yourself. Like, for example, if like one unit on your cavalry gets caught on something as it's trying to run by, you have to like really spam click that order. It can be a little bit of a tricky thing for sure. Empire Knights moving in. It looks like Spearmen are following in suit, just trying to finish off all the Jezzails. Toddy has gotten back up in the sky, I believe. Not quite. It looks like he's still being hunted by that Assassin, but hopefully he will. Nice little scorch there, going down from my Skaven foe, roasting some of my Spearmen as the Empire Knights as well as some Spearmen continue to fight against the Rat Ogres. Should be able to win that engagement. Now, as far as my Great Cannon situation goes, pretty much 100% offline. I think almost shattered too. Well, it looks like the Great Cannon's still here, so I might be able to come back. I believe Hadri's did use a Clan Rat Summit or something on top of it to potentially shut it down, but yeah, looking like it could be pretty close to point of no return. Creeping back ever so slightly. We're just like grabbing whatever we can. A couple Sigmarite units are rallying here, and I am going to be grabbing my Empire Knights as well as, my Empire Captain, as well as the Wizard and the remnants of my Knight Corps to move in and try and take down the Grey Seer. Obviously, the Hell Pit Abomination has been on guard duty, and it's very, very slow. I mean, not slow, it still has 58 speed, but this is a good opportunity for my Pistoliers and my other characters to try and finish off the Grey Seer and cut the head off the metaphorical Skaven Snake here. Gotta do it, man. Taking out the leadership, getting rid of Unholy Clamor and the magic, and I believe the second dreaded spell may have been used, like I said, on the Great Cannons here, but the Great Cannon does get online here. They actually come back, and they're like, hold! Fire, reload, fire! They get really close and might be able to rip a couple shots. Yeah, no, but this is the dreaded 13 spell, I think, which is good, because that cannon would be very punishing, and yep, I get nuked into oblivion there, and the Great Cannon crew will be breaking in a moment. Looks like it shatters. The dreaded 13 spell does summon halberds this time around, and again, that pulls the balance of power back to point of no return. But Toddy's here. He's coming back in. I have a couple of Pistoliers. I have some Spearmen here who should be able to defeat these Rat Ogres in combat with 43 models. We do have a fair amount of Sigmarites that will potentially be rallying here in the distance, while Toddy, even though he's beat up, I think he, on the charge, should be able to get an advantage against the Assassin. Hopefully he will be able to win this. So here comes the Toddbringer. Oh, looks like he's going to be deciding to go elsewhere, running for the hills when the Trophy Heads is active, which is certainly good, because fighting when Trophy Heads is up would mean maybe a death sentence for Toddy, even with the potential for terror routes and other things like that. So Assassin making his way back towards the Skaven blob. Very common in late game Skaven tactics, basically just to unify your forces, because typically, you know, your weapons teams do get compromised, right? A lot of people build against Skaven like that. So Boris and the Amethyst Wizard looking for opportunities. A couple Spearmen are rallying here. My poor Empire Captain gets a little bit oversaturated by Skaven here, and the Stormvermin Halberds are able to poke him down. Obviously, this character doesn't have a lot of mass, so he can't get trapped in precarious situations from time to time. So we're going to be chasing down the rat scraps. Basically, I want to keep the Skaven from blobbing and getting a really nice Death Star. So we're chasing down everything, trying to shatter what we can. We go after the Ogres here. The Ogres will be broken as well. And now Hadri's has formed his own Death Stars. He does chase down my Spearmen here, which were the last of their kind. Now, I did actually just realize in a moment that I actually had some Empire Knights sitting on the edge of the battlefield. I chased off some Wolf Rats like very early in the game and had forgotten about them, or maybe just assumed they were in combat somewhere else. So here we're moving in the rest of our forces. You can see the Spearmen marching up. We do also have some Empire Knights going back here to hammer down the Skaven slaves. And both Hadri's and I are just going to be regrouping. And now the balance bar is dead even. We've really scrapped our way back into this game, largely due to the fact that Boris Toddbringer was able to maximize the healing over the course of a very long, 6-minute period after he got beaten down. So that's quite big. Very much like when you see Grom the Paunch in games like that healing, but it's even worse with Greenskins because it's Grom healing, it's the Hag healing, it's triple Stone Troll healing, right? It just becomes very, very discouraging because they're already baseline units, decent baseline units, even without their regeneration. So the Empire Knights are moving back in. We're preparing the final duel. So Toddbringer is going to go after the Assassin. You can see Trophy Heads or Assassin's Trophy is active. And the Empire Captain and the Amethyst Wizard looking for opportunities to charge as well, but we do pull back here. And now the other characters are going to be moving in while my Spearmen do hold back the Helpit Abomination, but I really need to kill the Assassin. His debuffs are quite nasty against all my characters here, and the Empire Captain does get a nice blow, and it looks like that Assassin should be breaking and running for the hills. We're trying to get away from the Helpit. Man, oh man, that thing is coming for Toddy, and it does get a nice blow right there, while the Amethyst Wizard does chase down the Clan Rats. I always feel like Empire vs. Skaven games end up like this, like super close, super scrappy. Obviously, Terror Routes are a substantial factor for me, but the Empire Knights finally made it back from their exodus, and will give me some nice shock damage tools to maybe break the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, which there's still 59 of these fighting rats, so it looks like they've accrued a decent kill count. Look at that, 743. Lance's couch for Sigmar, baby, here they go. Charging into the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, those guys do get hammered down pretty good. And now the Helpit Abomination, does he stand alone? Not quite, it looks like I'm not doing enough DPS there with those Empire Knights to break down the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, but now this is it. This is going to be the battle of battles. As I send in my character squad, we're going all in. Try and finish off the 9,000 HP on that damn Helpit Abomination. A couple nice shots. We do have 3 characters here. Helpit, of course, is a little bit occupied fighting the spears and other units, but now the Empire Captain as well as the Amethyst Wizard will be going, but the Helpit Abomination does actually have a tail whip attack. You can see he's tail whipping Toddy there, and Toddy does actually take some big damage, so the balance of power is really, really ebbing and flowing. So obviously I have no other characters here or things fighting, so based on that, I mean, I do have Spearmen now, so once they get in here and move closer, I can cycle charge. But I was staying in combat until my Spearmen got back in just to try and obey the banner rules in this. This was a practice match, of course. But Boris Toddbringer still fighting against the Helpit Abomination, but he's just getting tail whipped into the Shadow Realm here. My goodness, he gets back up, 574. Now going to be charging back in just a moment. I think going after the Clan Rats, the Empire Captain, as well as the Wizard, still working on that Helpit Abomination. It's sitting at 18 leadership, but it's getting Terror Routes on my units. The Empire Captain, the last one fighting. Another Terror Route coming down on my Spearmen here. And now Hadrius pulls back ahead on the balance of power as Toddbringer comes in. We get the big beast down to 12 leadership. So incredibly close, and he hits me. And Toddy does take the damage, getting as many attacks in as possible. But the Spearmen rally, which is actually quite big, and then they break. And the Helpit Abomination also breaks as well. From taking rear attacks from the Empire Captain, it did trigger the rear attack penalty. And my Wizard was coming back as well. So we just barely won that. Honestly, the Helpit Abomination probably could have kept fighting, obviously. But, that's the thing with Skaven. Leadership can be a big issue, even on their monsters. But, man, that was a really close game. We were behind so hard in the beginning. That big misplay of letting Toddy take that damage back there, and I kind of forgot to keep running him. That was a huge disaster, because I felt like we were in okay shape there. Also, not moving up and buffering my cannons better, that was also a huge mistake. It let him get in range with his Dreaded 13th spell, with his Jezzails. I should have used Toddy and the Empire Captain to stop the caster from getting so close to my lines. He never should have been able to get that Dreaded spell off. I should have had my Great Cannons, far enough back. But yeah, a couple little mistakes there, but ultimately it was a good game. It was quite a bit of fun. That's one of my builds against Skaven. The other one is a rush with Volkmar, which I think is very powerful. Probably a little bit stronger than this one, but I think they're both viable. And yeah, they can hold their own. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Certainly quite an epic mustache match. And my friends, we'll see you back. Hadrius and I did play a batch of games. I think we played like 3 or 4 in total. So you'll be seeing all those replays going up over the next couple weeks. Cheers, my friends. Take care. And we'll see you next time.